Hello everyone and welcome to the stream. This is Otaku Showboat. Today is Sunday, June 21st, 2020. It's Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all of those who are fathers out there. If you're watching the VODs on YouTube, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and if you are so inclined, head on over to twitch.tv/OtakuShowboat to leave a follow to be notified when I go live Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 10 a.m. to approximately 1 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. You can do all the social stuff through the links below the video, including supporting Pyandon's Monster Development at patreon.com/Pyandon and myself at patreon.com/OtakuShowboat. So, there's lots of things to discuss today that I have done off screen, so I will basically just immediately go over to the game, but I will say thank you to the patron who has joined, and then increased their support to the glass tier. The first person on the glass tier is Boiled Nerves. So congratulations for being the first ever in that particular tier of support. Thank you very much for that. So, off screen, I did a few things. I have a list that is something like 20 something items long to talk about going into the day today. So let's get started with that. So the graphene build, which I have up, that's what we're going to be finishing today, and then moving on towards the stuff directly involved in Alien Sample 3s. That is the goal for the day today. The graphene, where was that again? I've forgotten. Where's my graphene build? My graphene build is over here. So I have extended out the graphene build of everything that we have done in the past. So all of the items here on this list that have the tick marks, that's all been completed. Even that one's been completed. But what's left is all the quote-unquote new stuff up here, which is making chloromethane, dimethyl dichlorosilane, then nickel cores PDMS, or polydimethylsiloxane, PDMS graphene base, and then the graphene sheets, and then the actual graphene rolls at the end. Now, you'll notice I did a lot of this building out here, like making silicon, and like making aromatics in here, making methanol. A bit of this, even making moss. Yeah, so a bit of this could have just been added onto the train station. Because I now have new dedicated factories for a lot of things that are actually built into here. In particular, the first thing to discuss is I now have a moss factory, a dedicated moss factory somewhere. It's here. Say hello to the dedicated, ginormous, maximum amounts of stuffs. I think it's 150 per second. I have completely forgotten this moss build. I have a few things planned in Hellmod right now. It's 150 per second on the moss build that I have done off screen, and that's all the stats. That's what it looks like. Now, when I set this up, I had not yet done one very key thing, which is I have switched over from using the Deadlocks stacking 5 Pyanodons to using the updated Deadlocks stacking 4 Pyanodons. So I have swapped to stacking 4 Pyanodons, as it is, as I said, currently being supported and updated, and has stuff added for Alien Life, including a fix for Moss, in that it can now be stacked, even though it is a module. So not only can it be stacked now, but there was an issue with it being a module not being able to be stacked. Now it's able to be stacked, which will make the logistics of this a little bit easier. I did a lot of belt getty stuff to make it work, even somewhat appropriately, to try and get my full 150 out. So that's a thing. Uh, I did, however, do a modification to the deadlock stacking for Pyanodon mod itself. We should be able to see somewhere in this list. Deadlock stacking for Pyanodon is now here instead of 5. I removed all of the dependencies on the Pi suite for that mod because I've said this. I did this to stacking 5 Pyanodons as well because all of the stacking recipes are added inherently after the loading and creation of the items that they are looking for. They're done in, I think it's in data updates for this, or final fixes or something like that. It's done after the initial loading of all the mods anyway, and the creation of items. So it doesn't need to have those dependencies on the Pi suite. It doesn't actually need the Pi suite dependencies on it. However, I need to remove those dependencies because the Pi suite's void recipes need to be added after the stacking recipes are added. And that comes down to a alphabetical order situation on the load order. So what would happen if the stacking for Pyanodons depends upon the Pi suite, specifically the piece of the Pi suite that adds the void items, it will always do its stuff after the Pi suite is completely finished doing what it does, which means it's completely after the adding of the void recipes, which means you cannot void stacked items unless you remove the dependencies from deadlock stacking for Pyanodons, in which case then the Pi void recipes are added after the stacking recipes are added. Just one of those very nuanced things with programming and sequence of loading of events that is very important. So I made that change because I happen to be voiding stacked items. Voiding stacked Pi suite items. The vanilla items that get stacked can absolutely still be voided regardless, but in order to void stacked items in the Pi suite that are added in, you cannot have the dependency upon the Pi suite on that particular mod. So just a reminder of that, we talked about that a while ago when I did that initial change on the stacking 5 mod, but we are now on stacking 4, which does happen to not have a few things. Like, oddly enough, I think meat and myoglobin don't have stacking in stacking 4 Pyanodons, but do in stacking 5. It's a little strange. Also, a number of the recipes for stacking won't actually unlock until I pick up stacking 3 at Purple Science, and that's what's going to give all the rather interesting things, like in what universe would you be interested in stacking any of these items ever? I have no idea. No idea in what universe one would decide, or one would have the need to stack literally any of these items. But hey, there they are. I'll be able to stack this stuff. You can stack gold. You can stack gold plates when you pick this one up. Hey, and you can stack the super alloy. Hey, as if we'll ever be producing over like 100+ unit. Like, are we even going to be doing more than a blue belt ever of these things? Because this is the one that'll stack blue belts, right? Are we ever going to be needing to have more compression than whatever the heck the blue belt is, 45 per second of any of these things? Maybe uranium ore, maybe straight up uranium ore, like some of the vanilla stuff here that's done. Maybe actually the diamond intermediates would be very important. Like, of all the things in here, any diamond intermediate would be useful of any of this, because the diamond chain is just obscene in the intermediates. Even after being toned down a bit, it's still a lot. Speaking of a lot, in the code for the Pi Suite, there have been plenty of updates. I haven't actually looked today at the Pi Suite GitHub, but as I had looked yesterday, a few things of note. Pi Alien Life, the Dingrito will be modified to consume less power, so that's great. I think it's halved the power on it from being 500 kilowatt draw to 250, and it will turn faster, which is really, really nice. There has been another commit since I last looked to Pi Alien Life, seeing that the Pyphoon Bay is going to be faster from 2 to 2.5. Okay, that's cool. Hello, King! I need No Man's Pi. Yeah, I saw that with the ability to use multiple vehicles at the same time, multiple Dingrits to completely annihilate absolutely everything. Yeah, off screen, I had an oopsie. As in I had a head-on collision of Dingrito with Train. Head-on collision, Dingrito versus Train. Dingrito won, and Train was annihilated. Like, actually, the train was annihilated. It wasn't just damaged, it died. Fortunately, just the locomotive and not what it was carrying, so I could just place down another locomotive on top of it. Ah, boy, and that fixed it. Fortunately, the game is smart enough that when a train dies, when you put it back, when you replace it, it keeps the order, the actual train schedule on it. So that was easy enough, but it was very funny, to say the least. Now, among all the other changes to the Pi Suite, there was one very important thing, and King's going to be here to, I guess, mention thoughts about it. So hot air is going to be overhauled. Hot air production is going to be overhauled. We've had the major overhaul to how hot air is used, which was a bit overpowered in how it was used, but also how you produce it was also overpowered. So that, like, both aspects of making it as well as how it was used were both rather strong. So I do agree that producing it should be changed. The implementation is currently a little bit interesting. So right now, it's going to use outlet gas 4. Okay, but the concept of it is you're going to use a really hot gas to progressively warm up stone bricks until you get hot stone bricks, and then you can use that to make your hot air. And you could use each of the ones in between as well, but it doesn't give you as much hot air. And this will progressively cool down the fluid that you use, in this case the outlet gas 4, until it gets down to 250 Celsius. It starts at 1000 and then it goes down to 750, then 5, then 250. At the moment, there's nothing, no current recipe to reheat that outlet gas, so I don't really know what to do with the outlet gas 4 once it's 250C. It would be interesting if there was a way to reheat it, because then you're essentially looping through this multi-step system with a singular bit of fluid. You just have to feed it some initial fluid, and then it just cycles with power, which is the same dynamic it is currently, but it's significantly more steps in between, which I think would be pretty awesome, actually. The downside is that, well, outlet gas 4 cannot be made until you get Coke 3, which would push the usage of hot air back a fair bit to, let's see, to blue science / that brain blue science if you're using Alien Life. So a bit of a ways in to a standard playthrough. When under normal circumstances, hot air comes up really early. So it's still being adjusted and all of that. I am a fan of the concept. I wish there was a reheating. Yeah, so King is still playing with it, and stuff is missing. Yeah. The gas may change. Yes, a reheat recipe of some type. Yep. That's what I was thinking, is that I think it is intended, and it is intended, that there will be a way to reheat the gas from 250 back up. So it's interesting. I've totally made a factory to produce outlet gas 4 now, just in case that current iteration got pushed. Yeah, so before one just heated bricks in a furnace, and now it's not that there's no need to use hot air at all, it's just that the method of producing it has more steps involved. And at the moment, as far as Tholins are concerned, I don't think there's any plans to change the current iteration all that particularly much. However, Planeton is in the process of attempting to make an alternative rocket with its own graphics and all of that. So you can actually see what the new intended rocket designs actually look like on the Pi Patreon. So that's intended. In fact, launching the rocket, that's another thing that's been changed. I saw in the code is that actually launching the rocket is now cheaper, or stuff involved with launching rockets is cheaper. Again, even cheaper than before. So those are some interesting things. As I said, I totally made an outlet gas 4 factory, which yeah, that's up here somewhere over the rainbow. Here. Yeah, I have a little train station going on for this. So the thing about outlet gas 4, yes, I'm totally making 500 per second up to of outlet gas 4, assuming all my logistics is correct, which it's not. But anyway, in the current iteration, 500 units of outlet gas 4 would make 5,000 units of hot air per second. So yeah, it's a bit. It's a bit. I need all of it. I need all of it. Yeah, so this is a thing. It uses a little bit of coal, just a few units per second of coal to do this. Um, Makes a pretty good amount of red hot coke. If only I actually had need of further processing of this red hot coke. There are things that will use red hot coke. In particular, there are Arcod recipes that directly use red hot coke. So, as it turns out, I now have red hot coke on my train network, and I avoid the excess going forward. So, this is actually just to produce the coke oven gas in here. And then outlet gas 1, 2, and 3 are used to upgrade Aurum. So, all three of them are now also on my train network. The only thing that's not on the train network is the actual outlet gas 4, because that's going to get processed here, and it's not used to upgrade anything. It's just used to make more flue gas in the end. I am totally voiding all of this sulfur. All 150 sulfur per second is being stacked and voided completely. And yes, I have tall oil. I have tall oil because that's on top of, the mining operation here on this coal to go into heavily beaconed production of the red hot coke and coal gas stuff, and all of this stuff, and tanks of stuff. I've got aromatics in here. I think I might actually void excess on this outlet gas just to have a consistent supply of the aromatics, but we shall see. I have another thing. I have another thing. I have several things, but this next thing is down here. So, light oil and petroleum gas and benzene and aromatics and tall oil are all now on my train network through this beautiful factory down here. This beautiful factory is converting tar into tall oil and light oil. Light oil is being used to convert tall oil into more light oil, as well as aromatics. Excess tall oil is being put onto the train network as well as we go down the line. And then the light oil is being desulfurized into petroleum gas. And the excess petroleum gas is not being voided. So, and then, of course, all of the sulfur is being voided. So, yeah, that's a thing. These are heavily beaconed because the fluid separator recipe, this particular fluid separator recipe, is incredibly slow. It is obscenely slow. It does singular units of fluid per second processing without such heavy beaconing. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot of stuff there. It also needed salt, a lot of salt. So I have an extension station just to get my salt going for this, as well as the coke for the voiding of the sulfur. It's huge. It's huge stuff. Also, you may notice right across the way, methanol. Methanol exists up here. Methanol out of hot air, cough cough, natural gas, and some tin chromium alloy. So there's the methanol. There's methanol right there on the network. What else is on the network? So I have Molly using the hot air recipe now. So my Molly production is using hot air, and I've done some productivity along the way. Note that this hot air Molly recipe does not take productivity when, like, the rest of the chain totally takes productivity. Interesting. I have not adjusted the building counts, though, so it's productivity just for the sake of putting the modules in. I haven't, like, upgraded to Mark II or any of that for the most part, and adjusted the building counts because you would need to adjust the building counts as well. There. I have vastly expanded my heavy oil production. I have, in fact, doubled my heavy oil production. That's going into these nice lines. Let's see. I have put the Yotoi fruit onto my train network. That'll come in handy later. A lot later. Let's see. What else is new? I have my list here. I have molten iron on the train network. Yes, I do. Molten iron is now among the stuff that's on my train network. I have molten tin on the train network. That is also true. I now have molten tin on the train network. I have a tin chromium alloy molten hot air casting station somewhere. Somewhere. I've forgot where I put it, but it's somewhere. Oh yes, and then glass is also going to get its own molten thing at some point. That's another thing. Let's see, got glass hot air done, not released yet. Working on the rest. It'll break. Yep. Yeah, so the molten glass is a thing that's being worked on, so just a heads up. Glass will end up processing into molten. There'll be like it's like an extra step, if I'm not mistaken. It just goes into molten and then gets cast. So, yep, that's a thing that is coming that will affect things a bit. Not too worried about it though. Let's see. So I have tin chromium alloy molten casting, and I have iron niobium molten casting as well. Again, somewhere. I have completely forgotten where. Oh, here it is. Here they are. So tin chromium is here. Looks just a little like this. Very simple. Just bring in the two moltens, and it's producing this. Removes a step for most glass products. Okay. All right. Cool. And then the iron niobium is here. Now the titanium niobium alloy is going to be subject to the production of titanium molten. And let's just say molten titanium is a little bit more problematic to produce initially compared to tin. Tin molten is easy enough in that it has a recipe, if I can find it. Tin molten is easy enough because it has a grade 4 into a powdered recipe, or whatever the heck this is called. It's 1-to-1 grade 4 into this powder in a ball mill, and then you can actually just convert that straight into molten. Titanium does not have that. So you have to add an outside input. In this case, the outside input is MIBC, or methyl isobutyl carbonyl. And yeah, copper, petroleum gas, and acetone. I now have all three of these on my train network. So I can go ahead and just start making MIBC and do my powdered titanium, which can then immediately get pushed into molten if I so desire. The thing is that, or no, it's the enriched dust, one more screener step with a feedback of rejects to make things even more complicated. That can give you the molten that you so desire. It will need heavy oil to actually process and make that molten. Not worried about that in the slightest. Now, going further is going to require a bunch of salt and grease and more grease and filtration media and sulfuric acid and like it's a bunch of other outside inputs going further. Even biofilm gets used in here. So it's like, well, how far do I want to go? Do I want to go all the way to high grade? processing. Like, do I really want to go all the way to high grade titanium? I don't know. I don't know. It might be worth it if I'm doing the MIBC, which is frankly the most expensive part. I may as well do this. Yes, it does produce a lot. In fact, I have a hell mod for that somewhere. You there. Yeah. So the amount of titanium I'm producing right now would end up as 306 out. 306 out from my 75 ore in the end, doing the hot air thing. It's a 612 units of hot air, by the way, to process that. But yeah, it's grease in lots and lots and lots of sulfuric acid, which is a slight problem. Some biofilm, 4 plates of aluminium, which is fine. Some graphite. It's not that bad, but it is 291.4 units of MIBC, which is a bit. Now, there is one other thing. MIBC also gets used in the tin chain. Tin is also unique in that you don't get high-grade tin at blue science. You get high-grade tin at yellow science, which also unlocks reduction and sintering. So tin at blue science stops at this high-grade concentrate before going into molten. The numbers are off because I have the tin dust here. I can get rid of that so we can see that 75 tin will ultimately make 168.3 through the hot air thing. But if we look at how much MIBC gets used, 803.6 methyl isobutyl carbonyl to process 75 units of ore. That's a little bit more than the 200 and something of the titanium to do roughly the same thing. That's a little bit more stuff. In fact, it's this much stuff. However, I think I would somewhat ignore this petroleum gas for the moment. I have another method of producing it. It's like half of my current production though there. So, yeah. 16.75 copper plates. Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit. It's a little bit of MIBC. Just a little bit to do that, but I have not done that. Going down my list of more stuff. I have put seaweed and moss on the mall and deleted local production. In fact, the mall has changed a lot. The mall has been dramatically updated. If you hadn't noticed or seen, there's a little bit more empty space in this mall. Like here, no more seaweed, no more moss, no more silicon. I have a silicon factory at this point, putting silicon on the network. No more silicon in here. A lot of this was reduced just because I've gone up to Mark II here for the filtration media, so all that's like gone at this point. All the pure sand stuff that was up here. All of the pie oil processing that was being done in the mall, yeah, that's gone. That's completely gone. I've completely removed it. I have no more distillate stuff happening in the mall. I have brought in the petroleum gas that I need for the refined syngas. I have brought in crude oil to make BTX instead of doing the other way through the distillate stuff. I've brought in aromatics off of my train network for wherever I need the aromatics. I've brought in heavy oil. I've brought in just benzene. I've brought in benzene because I now have that too to do the local nitrobenzene from in here. Let's see. I've also got ferrite. On my train network. Just, this little tiny little ferrite thing here to put it on the train network. I have Relesia. I have Relesia now on my train network. Oh my gosh, it's a Relesia factory existing on my train network. It is the exact same process that I used to do the Relesia over here, I think. Something along those lines. It's this. I'm pretty sure it's this recipe over here to make the manure in the manure factory. Ah, boy, what else? Aluminium and Duralumin are now using the hot air recipes. So these are using the hot air recipes. Nickel is also using the hot air recipes, but of course, Nichrome still waiting on the hot air Nichrome. It's because it's in an advanced foundry and not the casting unit. Oh boy, let's see, going down the line, what have I not mentioned? Lead and silver is now hot air, lead and silver casting. So this is now hot air up here. Wasn't hot air before, so now even more silver potential with even more lead. I have talked about the Yotoi, the Relesia, the methanol, heavy oil expansion, rocket fuel. Right, you may or may not have been paying attention to all of the train network stuff, but I now have rocket fuel on the train network. Why? Why did I put rocket fuel on the train network? Because it allows me to make a dedicated fuel station that inputs the rocket fuel that I now have blueprinted, if I can even find one of these fuel stops. I know there's one here, right here. So this whole station, as wonky as it is right here, is a blueprint, and it has the fuel stop 1 on it, on its station name. So it purely exists to be a fuel station for my trains. Because previously, the only fuel station of this entire base was right here. That's right here. The rocket fuel is kerosene oxygen. I don't know if that's a changed recipe. I don't know what you mean by a changed recipe. This is the first time I've ever done rocket fuel in the Pi Suite. So, to me, it has only existed as kerosene and oxygen into rocket fuel. But yeah, it's kerosene. Kerosene and oxygen into rocket fuel. And that is going everywhere across the base to various fuel stops. Why do I want these various fuel stops? Because as my trains transition to using the rocket fuel, they will have to go and refuel a little bit more than twice as often as before because of just the difference in fuel value that will be available, because rocket fuel stacks to 10 versus Coke, which stacks to 500 in each. It's a really big difference in total fuel value per train. And since they'll have to refuel more often, I wanted them to not have to travel quite as far in general to do their refueling. So, thus, I have stations strewn about the place. Strewn about the place for the various train stations. Let's see, what else? Besides the additional fuel stops, I talked about the light oil pet gas benzene factory. I've talked about the outlet gas 4. I've talked about the ferrite, the silicon. That just leaves one more thing. Just one more thing, and that'll cover all of the additions that I have done off screen